Alright, so, welcome to Sexy Frenzel. Often I get asked why is it called Sexy Frenzel, and the real reason is that, like at Deep Week we try to, with all the workshops, we try to have them like quite balanced. We try to have, workshops that kind of complement each other. Like we don't want to have like 2 equalization workshops going on at the same time, or 2 other, the same type of workshops going on at the same time. And I was sitting there with the previous Deep Week manager, and we're like, what are we going to put on this workshop slot? We've got this one, we've got this one. We need like another, and the 2 workshops are quite niche. We're like, we need like a workshop that's going to really get people. And I was like, I can do a Frenzel workshop. He's like, yeah, but it's just not sexy enough. And then we're like, what if we just call it Sexy Frenzel? Right? And it did. And then we had almost the whole group came to that Frenzel workshop. We're like, that's it, we're calling it Sexy Frenzel now. But the Sexy Frenzel workshop is really just, it's Frenzel in its entirety. As in, it's beginner Frenzel, it's intermediate Frenzel, and it's advanced Frenzel. It's Frenzel until the end of the ocean. And so we're going to go through it step by step by step. We're going to do little drills and exercises along the way, and ideally we get to the end and there are no more Frenzel questions. I'm not promising that there are no more Frenzel problems, but at least you will have the answer to the issues that are going on. So let's look at my little equalization head. This is just a cross section of a head, so we can see everything that's involved in the process of equalizing. So I'll go through the anatomy really quickly, just so we all on the same page. And I actually find that it's really important that we all use the same words to describe equalization anatomy, and it's because most of the things that we're using to equalize are all muscles that are, not visible, and we have, I suppose, a reasonably low awareness of them. And so, if we're all using the same terms to describe them, I feel like we have a better common language for interpreting what's going on. Because you guys come up from a dive and you're like, and I'm like, what happened?
I've never heard that sound. Okay.
Come to our boy.
And you'll describe, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. But we all have such a unique relationship with our mouths and our muscles inside, and so it's very hard to really communicate with that. You'll feel things in your mouth differently than I will feel things in my mouth. And the way you feel things in your mouth is going to be based on the way that you breathe, the way that you speak, the way that you eat, the language that you speak, and just your unique mouth shape. So it's very hard to communicate across these barriers, and so I find that using the same words for the anatomy at least helps make a bridge. So we'll go through the anatomy for equalization. So this whole section here is my nasal cavity, otherwise known as your nose hole. Right? This is everything back up here behind my nose in that cavity. That is my nasal cavity. Now my nasal cavity is separated from my oral cavity by the roof of my mouth. Okay? So down here is my oral cavity, and my oral cavity contains my tongue. This is my tongue. Nasal cavity, oral cavity, tongue. The roof of your mouth is broken up into 2 different sections. You have your hard palate and your soft palate. Your hard palate is the area at the front of your mouth. If you put your tongue up to the front of your mouth right now, you see there's a hard area of bone. That's your hard palate. Slide the tongue further back, and you see it becomes a soft area of muscle. Right? That's your soft palate. But this is what is separating your nasal cavity from your oral cavity. Your soft palate is also the thing at the back of the roof of your mouth that wiggles when you snore. Right? Not that I ever snore, of course. Apparently I started snoring when we had our second child, says my wife. But I have no reason to believe her. in your nasal cavity are a lot of the things that need to be equalized. For example, your middle ear stems off from the back of your nasal cavity, from your eustachian tube. Your eustachian tubes connect to your nasal cavity, and then at the end of your eustachian tubes is your middle ear. Your eustachian tubes are a flexible mucous membrane lined tube. And the mucous membrane lining and the wetness inside there is why we hear that popping sound when we equalize. It's the sound of wet tissues separating. Right? If you lick your lips, that's all it is. Wet tissues separating. Now, this little weird thing here is my sinuses, well, is my upper sinuses, right? So your sinuses also connect to your nasal cavity, and then I have drawn on a mask. So there's the mask. These are the three main things we think about with equalizing. Although, so you got to equalize your ears, got to equalize your sinuses, got to equalize your mask. But we are going to complicate things a lot more than that, because equalizing is more complicated than just equalizing your ears and your sinuses and your mask. Frenzel equalization. So that's everything that's going on top here. In the picture, this here is my lips, and then we have our throat. So here in my throat is something called my vocal fold. You'll often hear this getting called the glottis. I think vocal fold is more appropriate. They're both terms. If you look up, like you pull out a medical textbook, some will say glottis, some will say vocal fold. But as we keep talking about Frenzel, you'll see how every cue and every exercise that we use to teach someone how to Frenzel, or we use to determine if someone is Frenzeling correctly, or to work out what's going wrong, is a speech exercise. And I find that if we think of these muscles as being our speaking muscles, it allows the person to contextualize what's going on better, and we tend to solve problems faster. So I'm going to refer to this now as just the vocal fold. And I generally do refer to it as the vocal fold. Now, your vocal fold, this thing here, it opens and closes, and it separates your oral cavity from your thoracic cavity. So the nasal cavity is separated from the oral cavity by the hard and the soft palate. The oral cavity is separated from the thoracic cavity by the vocal fold. The vocal fold, right, and the vocal fold includes your vocal cords, right? The vocal fold is a fold of muscle that moves your vocal cords in and out, and can also shut to stop air from moving. Your vocal cords, your vocal fold, are nestled in a group of muscles called your larynx. Your larynx is a group of muscles here in your throat, and it moves up and down, up and down, up and down for a few things. Like it's what helps you swallow. It's what leads to a swallow. It lifts up to swallow, and it also moves constantly as you're breathing. Just flapping around all the time as you inhale and exhale. But with our speech, your larynx is what is moving up and down to control your pitch. When you make a high-pitched sound, your larynx is doing that by lifting up, lifting your vocal fold and lifting your vocal cords in them higher. And when you want to make a low-pitched sound, that happens purely by your larynx moving down and moving your vocal cords lower. This is why men have Adam's apples, right? Men have Adam's apples because we have larger larynxes, or larger areas here in the base of our throat to give us that deep voice, That's all it is. It's a protruding part of your larynx or your throat. So high-pitched sounds make the vocal fold go up, low-pitched sounds make the vocal fold go down. And the larynx is the muscle that is doing that. So that's our anatomy. So let's look at Frenzel. Let's look at a Frenzel equalization. A Frenzel equalization is when we use our oral muscles to equalize for diving, right? Or for being on a plane, or whatever it is you do. And it's really, really simple. Frenzel, like simple Frenzel, is incredibly simple, and everyone can do it. And this is all that it is. I pinch my nose, right? I pinch my nose because the goal of Frenzel is to build pressure in the nasal cavity. We have to build pressure in the nasal cavity because the eustachian tubes sit shut, right? So you need pressure to push them apart, to get air through them, to get in the middle ear. So we want to build pressure in the nasal cavity. I pinch my nose to stop the air from escaping out of my nostrils. Then I put my tongue up against the roof of my mouth to stop the air from escaping out of my mouth. Alright? Or not, you can use your lips. Right? You can just close your lips to stop the air from escaping out of your mouth. Then I close my vocal fold to stop the air from escaping back into my lungs. Right? So I've just shut off all the exits. Then, when I've done this, I lift up my larynx, and that's it. As you lift up your larynx, you also lift up your closed vocal fold with it. And it's a pump. You're pushing and pumping the air up with your vocal cords and the muscles around them. Cool? The tongue will get switched because as the tongue, as your throat and larynx move up, it will inevitably squish the tongue. But the tongue does not play an active role in equalization. The tongue, very simply, stops air from leaving your mouth. That's it. Right? So, pinch my nose, put my tongue against the roof of my mouth, close my vocal fold, lift up the larynx. That's all we're doing. Right? Let's give it a go. Let's pinch our noses, put our tongue against the roof of our mouth. Any position will do, whatever's comfortable. Lock our throat, lift up the larynx. Cool. Hands if we have no issue with doing that. Alright, hands up if we found that to be challenging or we're missing a component. Yay! That's okay. Here we are. So, what we're going to look for now, and we use Frenzel music, when it comes to looking or to finding out if a person can Frenzel, there's two areas that we look. We look at their throat. If we see their throat going up, we know that they're moving their larynx. And we look at their nostrils, when their nostrils are pinned. If we can see their nostrils flaring, that means there is sufficient pressure getting into the nasal cavity to open up the ears. So let's have a look. Let's do the Frenzel for us again. And we'll crouch in nice and low. And we'll watch your throat move. And relax. So relax and do it. And relax and do it. Relax. And relax. Yeah. Congratulations, you got Frenzel.
Nothing's popping.
Sorry, okay, nothing's popping. So, can you Valsalva right now?
Yeah.
Do you mind, can you do this and do you mind if I just hold your nose to feel how much pressure gets inside there? Yeah. Alright.
Valsalva or?
Let's do Valsalva first and then Alright, so you pinch your nose, I'm going to tap the top. So, Valsalva. Oh yeah, now pinch even lower for me. Yeah, now Frenzel. And again. Now relax the throat and go. Relax the throat and go. Great, cool. So you are doing all the movements and the mechanics correctly. You just need to be able to lift up the larynx higher.
How does that?
Right? Alright, so when it comes to teaching people how to Frenzel, what we are always looking for are things called cueing exercises. So I say to you, lift your larynx. Ah! But you know how to lift your larynx. Otherwise, you couldn't swallow and you couldn't speak. So we need to find other exercises that make you do that. And we're all going to do these exercises so you don't feel alone. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to hum or sing. We'll sing a low tone and then we'll slowly move it high. So it's going to be like cool. And as we do that, we're going to put our fingers here on our throat. We're going to feel the movement. Feel how high it can go? Now, this is going to be something that, you play with later because you know, like this is something that truly, you will work this out. You will work out how to do this faster on your own than if someone is giving you instruction. You need to just sit there in front of the mirror and you're going to go. And you're going to feel what it feels like to have the larynx lifted up, right? And then you're going to pinch your nose, And you see if you can just smash it up. Cool? And go back and forward until it feels natural. And it won't take that long, I promise. Cool. So, this is Frenzel, right? This is how we Frenzel, and it's all pretty simple and straightforward. But, and this is a very big, important thing to sort of always have in mind. Air is compressing everywhere, all at once, at the same time, right? Just like the Oscar. And is that on the Oscar?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm gonna be able to slide that joke in well in the coming months. So air is compressing everywhere all at the same time. And so because it's doing that, we are always thinking to ourselves, oh no, the air is compressing our ears, equalize our ears. Oh, there's my mask, the air is compressing in my mask, oh, equalize my mask. But are we thinking, oh, the air is compressing in my mouth, equalize my mouth? Right? Well, now we have to. And this is where the reverse pack comes into play. The air, as it's compressing in your ear, is also compressing in your mouth. And you have to replenish it, otherwise you don't have anything left to Frenzel with. Who has been swimming down on a dive and heard themselves make this noise? Yeah, right? This is the sound of the person trying and failing to shift air from their lungs to their mouth with a reverse pack. So, really interesting. There is more skill in reverse packing than there is in Frenzeling. A lot more skill. So now, in the past, we've thought of Frenzel like this. We use the air in the mouth to push into our nasal cavity, and from the nasal cavity, we are equalizing our middle ear, we are equalizing our sinus, and we are equalizing our mask. But now we add another step to that. So we reverse pack. Let's draw some lungs down here. Here's shoulders. There you go. We reverse pack to take air from the lungs to the mouth. And then we Frenzel to take air from the mouth to the nasal cavity. And everything that stems off from the nasal cavity. That's the Frenzel technique. That is the Frenzel technique in a more complete sense. Because how many meters do you think you get, without replenishing the air in your mouth? You'd be lucky to get 20, right? You'd be lucky to get there. Or like, you'd be doing it in some small way. But yeah, typically like 10, 15, 20 meters, you need to replenish the air. So let's look at what a reverse pack is and why it's so bloody cool. So a reverse pack is when we close our vocal folds and we lower our larynx. So what happens to the air pressure in our mouth when we close our vocal fold and lift our larynx up? Right? We increase the pressure of the air in our mouth and nasal cavity. So what happens when we close our vocal fold and lower our larynx down? We decrease the pressure in our nasal cavity and our mouth. Because what we have the same amount, the same volume of gas, now suddenly stretched out over a larger space. Right? And I always like to think of it as in like with a balloon, like if we take a balloon and we could press it in from all sides, right? The air in the balloon would be of a greater pressure than the atmosphere around it. And if we could take a balloon and stretch it out from all sides, then the air in the balloon would be of a lower pressure than the atmosphere around it. We put a hole in that balloon and air will be sucked in. So when we close our vocal fold and lower our larynx, we are decreasing the pressure of the air inside our mouth and creating suction. So we are using this really cool mechanism to suck air out of our lungs. Who can make this noise? Yeah. What you've just done is closed your vocal fold, lowered it down, created suction, opened your vocal fold, relaxed your larynx. Right? And the sound is created as air is sucked through your vocal cords from your lungs to your mouth. Right? That's what the sound is. The sound is the air passing through the vocal cords, through that suction. So that's the air transferring. Now, when we are doing our reverse pack, we don't want to make a noise in the water. Like when we do it here and I go, hey, you can do this. That's an exaggeration, right? That's an exaggerated reverse pack. A reverse pack for a dive is small, subtle, and inaudible. You can see my throat just flicking down. We'll get there in a sec. We'll do an exercise. So, really quick. If I have a container of air, or like a container, right? And inside that container, I have a small amount of suction. I create a small decrease in pressure. And then open like a lid or a hole into the container from the atmosphere. Will the same amount of air be transferred into the container as if I had a huge amount of suction or a huge decrease in pressure? A small decrease in pressure or a huge decrease in pressure? Does it suck in the same amount of air?
But if it has the same time, then yes.
Yes, right? Because the container is the same. And it is full when it's full, right? And if the force is suction, right, not added pressure from the outside, it can only be full, and then the pressure is balanced between from the inside and the outside, and that's it. So what I'm getting at with this is that a small reverse pack and a large reverse pack transfer the exact same amount of air into the mouth and the lungs. One of these things is very stressful. A large reverse pack underwater is very stressful. Right? It's a lot of movement in the throat, especially when everything's all squeezing, and you can injure yourself. And the other one is not stressful. Transfers the same amount of air up into the container. You can only ever fill the container, and that's full. So, I reverse pack to equalize my mouth. I Frenzel equalize my nasal cavity and everything that shoots off from my nasal cavity. Does that make sense? Reverse packing is an equalization of the mouth. So you can think of it like that. The only thing in the body that doesn't have to be actively equalized, the only airspace, is the lungs and the intestines and the bowel. You know. Because all that gas is also compressing and then re-expanding and compressing and re-expanding. You know? There's a lot of gas movement in diving, is what I'm getting at here. And that's okay. So this is why we become so intimate in freediving. You know, we're sitting there around each other, and your MDR is making you piss, so you're like pissing next to you in your wetsuit, there's people right next to you, like, hi. And like, you know, you're coming up and down, there's like snot coming out, like, and you're like, don't mind me. And then, right, and you're like, oh, there's a in the water, and it's all hidden in the wetsuit, but it's all right next to them. And this is why we become such good friends. So Frenzel is 1, 2. Equalize the mouth, then equalize the nasal cavity. So let's all do a little bit of reverse packing, and I want you to start large and then move small. So I want to hear your reverse pack, and I want us to all go small, 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 small. Just like this. Cool. Beautiful. Can we feel the movement? Yeah.
I'm trying to do it underwater. I think I'm doing it some of it sounds a lot louder because of the whole water, underwater sound
It
thing.
sounds loud underwater?
Yeah.
That's possible. Yeah.
It's like, oh, am I doing really like hard, or is it just the sound is different? And
Let's see your reverse back. That looks great. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, with equalisation, it is like really good to do like a lot of dry equalisation drills because it means I can get to the water, and while you have all these things going on, like oh I'm holding my breath, oh I'm swimming down, what's my body position? Shit, where's my instructor? Is my fitting good right now? Oh fuck, it's time to free fall. Okay, free fall. Like there's a lot going on a dive, right? And if you can make your equalisation like habitual, you can make that one less thing you have to be concerned with. You'll just practice dry, and then when you go on the water, you're like, okay, I'm doing that thing. That's the thing I'm doing. I've done a lot at home. Most equalisation practice can be dry, and it's very beneficial. Let's do an exercise. We'll do an exercise where we work with our reverse pack. Now, once we go through this exercise first, because it can be a bit tricky if we don't do it step by step. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to Frenzel equalise as much air out of my nasal cavity as possible. Right? I'm going to Frenzel, and I'm going to hold the pressure the whole time. And while I'm holding the pressure, I'm going to release one finger just for the briefest of moments. And I'm going to put it right back on the nose, just like this. Look at my larynx up, hold the pressure the whole time. Right? When I do that, I'm going to allow as much air as possible to escape. I'm not going to draw any air back in my nose. And I'm going to hopefully push out as much air as bloody possible to the point where I can't equalise again. Now this will depend on the shape of your nasal cavity, how much air comes out. Because I have what is known as a big schnoz, I have to do 2 equalisations to get all the air out. But then, I can't equalise again. I cannot Frenzel. There's not enough air in my mouth or in my nasal cavity to go again. So what I have to do is a reverse pack. So then once we've done that, we're going to see how small a reverse pack we can do to replenish the air in your mouth and be able to Frenzel again. So this is me doing the whole drill, and then we're going to go through it step by step. Right? Every time you see my nostrils flare, that's me putting the pressure on my nasal cavity. Until I can't, and then I've got to reverse pack to refill it. So let's just try first getting the air out of our nasal cavities. So let's all just put our heads in our noses, Frenzel equalise and hold the pressure, and while you're holding the pressure the whole time, the briefest of moments, a finger comes off and then straight back on. See, and now see if you can equalise again. Cool. Alright. Was everyone able to do that? Hands for no. Cool. What was going on?
It was getting
You were naturally reverse packing? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's really hard not to actually.
Try to teach them something and they're already doing it.
It's hard not to, you've got to see.
Yeah, so yes, for a lot of you, this will be a habit. And you are the people who will hit 20 meters, 25 meters, 30 meters without ever learning what a reverse pack is. And others will need to be taught what a reverse pack is in order to go that deep. But, you know, let's say you could do it. Yeah.
I didn't run out of air either.
But will you do it? Oh, I mean, like, I'm making some big sweeping generalizations now. Just an example of people who are doing it already as a habit. And they're doing it already because it feels weird to have a decrease or an imbalanced amount of air in the mouth and throat. And the body wants to correct it at all times and will always seek to right that imbalance.
So if you're getting to 30 meters and not doing mouth fill or anything, that you are doing reverse?
You must reverse pike to go to
Must
30
do.
meters with Frenzel.
Right, okay.
You hit 30 there, pike.
Yeah, and I didn't do any, I can't do the mouth.
That's okay. That's a pretty solid PB though, right?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Same as
Yes, you have to do it with hands-free, right? Because hands-free is just another variation of Frenzel, bound by all the same physics and limitations as Frenzel. So if you have no air in the mouth, what can you hands free with? Right?
Just out of curiosity, how does hands-free work if you're not blocking others?
Hold that question, we'll do it at the end. Yeah? Because otherwise I will go on a big tangent. Cool thing about this workshop is that there's nothing on after this, so we don't have to finish at any point in time, you know. And we also will do a whole workshop on hands-free at the end of the week.
But if you notice that you're making that noise, then you're being a bit too rough. You try to need to be gentler.
If you are making that noise, one of two things is going on. You're trying to reverse pack too large, or you're waiting too long in between reverse packs.
Okay.
It's like, it would be the equivalent of you trying to equalize, and it's like, you waited too long, and then it's really hard to equalize for the mouth.
So do you reverse pack every time before equalizing, or how often do you do that?
Ideally before every equalization, you reverse pack. Yeah. So it's a two-step process. Yeah. So now let's go to step 2 of the exercise, where we Frenzel all the air out of our nose, and then we reverse pack, and you get another Frenzel out. Cool? Hands if we weren't able to do it.
What? What did you say?
Were you able, was everyone able to do it?
You got it before.
Sorry?
Send it before that you cannot do it.
You can't, wait, I thought also you can't reverse pack?
Well, I can't.
Let's have a look. So what you're doing now is exhaling, not frenzeling, right? Let's do exhale.
Like it opens. Like
Yeah. I think we need to do more step by step. But we can do it at the end of this, let's do step by step, yeah?
Yeah.
We'll just keep, plenty of time. We'll keep rolling through and then you two.
Is it normal that the second one after the reverse pack is much smaller, so there's not much air? I can do 2 Frenzels
Yep.
at the start, but then maybe 1 after reverse pack. So it's like
Ideally it's the same, but at this stage it's not a concern. Yeah. Alright. There are lots of these things, like I feel like I want to burp, I feel like I need to swallow. These are just weird you things. As we all have them. We all have many different reflexes and like the sensations of equalizing and putting pressure and taking out pressure in different parts of the mouth trigger different parts of like a gag reflex or other weird things. And you will just, your body will respond to it, and in time it will stop responding to it. But we all have weird mouths and weird heads, and things like this just happen, and it's fine. I mean, the burping is probably like, you're probably doing like a swallow at some stage in this, and you're probably swallowing some gas into your stomach, and then you're burping it up. That would be my guess, but when you're doing the swallow and why you're doing the swallow, it's going to be like a habitual thing, and it's for the most part better to get out of your way. There are a lot of things in which it is better for an instructor to get out of your way than to try to provide you with instruction on things like that. You'll work it out faster than if I give you instruction.
I feel like the salva and reverse pack is like kind of mixing in me. Like I don't know if it's the same thing. Like how would I feel they're different?
So
Because they're all coming from here. And
you
it's
feel like
like,
Valsalva in the reverse. Okay, so I mean Valsalva is when you are pushing with the respiratory muscle. A reverse pack, there should be no pushing.
Okay. No action
So
here.
there's nothing going on here. Okay. So, alright, step 3 of the exercise. When we reverse pack, I want it to be the smallest reverse pack possible. So you're going to Frenzel the air out. And then you do the tiniest possible reverse pack. And notice how you can Frenzel again afterwards. Even after the most minute reverse pack, you can Frenzel again. Did it? Oh, congratulations.
Maybe I just need a bit more air in there.
Possibly. So I mean, I think I've mentioned this a lot today, but like, there are honestly a lot of things in equalization where it is better for the instructors to be out of your way because you work it out. You just play, you practice. We're all doing it here together, and then all of a sudden your body makes it happen. Yeah.
So is it the reverse pack a mix of Frenzel and Valsalva? Because the lungs would also have the same pressure as the oral cavity, but then we are asking the diaphragm to push it and push.
So we're not pushing with the diaphragm.
Okay.
So there's absolutely, with the reverse pack, there's absolutely no pushing with any of the respiratory muscles.
Just the vocal cord.
We are using the throat to create suction so we can suck it up. Suck it out without using the muscles. Right? So you can you ideally when you're reverse packing you can put your hands all over your respiratory muscles and nothing moves. Just spitting air out of my mouth from my lungs. Sucking it up, spitting it out, sucking it up, spitting it out. And you can do that until there is nothing left. And at no point in time do you use your respiratory muscles.
Some people with respiratory illnesses, like they are paralyzed or something, they just do reverse packing and
reverse
packing
packing, I know, right?
all night. Oh my god.
I mean, yeah, no, that's really bloody,
It's crazy.
yeah.
Is there a certain depth that we would start the reverse packing?
Absolutely, right? The depth that you have to start reverse packing is the fail depth for Valsalva, right? You did 30 meters? Without question, you are reverse packing. Yeah. Yeah, you see it. Well, Timo's workshop is going on downstairs. No, like you are absolutely reverse packing. Yeah. So like, ideally you reverse pack from the beginning to transfer air. But sometimes when we're beginning, it's okay to like use Valsalva to fill up the mouth, you know, in the first like 10-15 meters. But then you'll get to the point where you just can't do it. You just cannot transfer air with Valsalva, and you're like, then trying to Frenzel it. It's a very awkward, stressful, horrible feeling. So from 15 onwards, you really have to reverse pack to get air moving into your nasal cavity. But I would say just try to do it from the beginning, if it's incredibly natural to you. Otherwise, once you get to 15, focus on reverse packing before every single equalization you do.
Just a little thing I just figured out. Maybe it's obvious to everybody, but I think that's what I was messing up all this time. So when I do the Frenzel and I want to do the reverse packing, I have to keep the whole thing down. Like so, I'm with my tongue. I think I'm taking up the space where. So it's not enough air that's going up. It's like a reverse pack, but the tongue is still up somehow.
So you're keeping your tongue up against the roof.
Yeah, so that's why it's not enough to do the second Frenzel.
Oh, I see what you mean. Why you're only getting that much air.
And I'm doing it, and I think I'm doing it underwater as well, and that's why it's like I'm trying to reverse pack like crazy, like
Yes.
and it's like still nothing going on.
Okay,
but now it's just like it's so much better.
Okay, fantastic. Nice. No, I mean, most people will keep their tongue in position as they're doing it, and just reverse pack, Frenzel, reverse pack, Frenzel, reverse pack, Frenzel. But if that's not working and then you need to add this, then great. Yeah. All right, so any questions about anything before we complicate this more?
Yeah.
I've been doing it here in the corner. I feel like a movement in my stomach.
Okay. So
Stacking.
let's have a look. So with checking if someone can Frenzel, there's only two areas that we ever look: the throat and the nostrils. Because what happens with most people is that they have a lifetime of paired muscle movements between their respiratory muscles and their oral muscles. Because when do we ever manipulate our mouth as if we were going to speak without exhaling? Right, that's the way we speak. We exhale slowly through our vocal cords and then manipulate the sound with our mouth and tongue. Blah, blah, blah. So it's very normal. No, it's fine. You see that? It's very normal that when we do things with our mouth and then when we equalize the Frenzel or reverse pack, that we will habitually want to engage our respiratory muscles. So some people think they're not Frenzeling because their stomach is tensing. And most people learn to Frenzel while their stomach is still tensing. And then over time, they stop tensing their stomach. So let's just look at your Frenzel. Cool. Alright, there's Frenzel. And you feel your stomach is engaging? I can see it's engaging. Tense in the stomach. Hey, perfect. Doesn't matter. You're still Frenzeling. Yep. Try not to move your jaw. Try to move your chin around. Okay, so now I'm not seeing the reverse. There you go. Cool. Yeah, you're fine. No, you're totally fine. You just have a dancing stomach, which is fine, right? It's not going to impact your dive in any way besides just being a bit uncomfortable and inconvenient. But it won't impact your equalizing. Okay. Cool.
Did you see any up and down movement?
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's moving. You have a dancing larynx as well.
Is the in charge, not the in charge, now people talk about the in charge, is
Yes.
that a type of reverse packing?
No. So all charges, all mouthful charges are Valsalva maneuvers.
Oh.
Right? Every time because you're it can sound the same, like humming and reverse packing can sound the same. There's a subtle difference in the sound, and when you're around a lot, the subtle difference becomes not so subtle. You go, yeah. Alright. So, I reverse pack and transfer air into my mouth. I use the air in my mouth with Frenzel to transfer the air into my nasal cavity, equalize my middle ear, my mask, my sinus. Oh, Park, yeah.
So as you check, so are they always a pair? Or is there a time where they're not a pair? Like the Frenzel and the reverse pack?
No, always a pair.
Always a pair.
They have to be.
No matter what depth, you always kind of use
Yeah, well you can't Frenzel without air in the mouth.
Yeah.
So they have to be, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So let's look at what can happen if we don't reverse pack often enough, or if we don't equalize often enough. So I'll rub out my little lines and we'll do some other stuff. So if I don't reverse pack often enough, what will happen is the air in my mouth will compress to the point where I lose the ability to maneuver air from my lungs to my mouth. So like, let's say I don't reverse pack often enough and the air starts to compress and I build up a bit of a decrease in pressure in this part of my mouth, which will affect the pressure in my nose as well. Because keep in mind, everything is connected. And it's not like you're going to have control over your soft palate going close, open, you know, let air in, let air out, wow, wow, wow. So but for the most part, when we don't reverse pack often enough, the air in our mouth will be compressing and shrinking, and it tugs on the tissues around our mouth. So all the tissues are going to be pulled inward, right? Pulled up, pulled inward, and it's awkward. And what happens is you run out of the mobility to do the reverse pack, to drop the larynx down and suck the air up from your lungs. Because everything's just getting pulled in, and you can't reverse pack. And then you try to reverse pack, and you're... That's what's happening.
Yeah, that's me.
So that's a person not reverse packing often enough. Cool? Now, what happens if a person doesn't equalize their nasal cavity often enough? Same kind of thing happens, doesn't it? Has anyone been going down on a dive? Going down on a dive, they're equalizing, everything's good, everything's normal, and all of a sudden, wall. Not like Oh, it's a bit squeaky now. Oh, it's a bit hard now. It's like, I can equalize, oh, I can't equalize. Has anyone ever had that? Right? This is what happens when you don't equalize your nasal cavity often enough. And now I want us to stop thinking about equalizing our ears. I want to change the way we think about this. We're not equalizing our ears. We're equalizing our nasal cavity. Because when we let pressure build up in the nasal cavity, right, it pulls on all the tissues around it. But all this stuff is hard. This is cartilage. It's not going to move. What will move? Soft palate. The soft palate will get sucked up into a closed position against the back of the mouth. And then with the soft palate stuck, you can't get air in there. Do you remember when you did your first reading course, some of you that's here, and your instructor said to you, I would like you to equalize before you feel the sensation of pressure in your ears. And you ignored that instructor, right? Yes, we all ignored that instructor. The reason why you were told that is because the nasal cavity becomes unequalized earlier than the middle ear. Does that make sense? Alright. The middle ear is flexible. Your eardrum is a flexible flap of skin. Your eustachian tubes are a flexible mucous membrane-lined tube. There's movement in there. You can handle pressure on that thing and then still bang air through there, not injure them, all that jazz. Your nasal cavity is not flexible. So smaller build-ups in the pressure will suck the only thing possible shut, the soft palate. It can, but for the most part, we'll get to the marks, don't worry. Things get more complicated. So the reason why your instructor said equalize before you feel the sensation of pressure was because the only feedback we have, unfortunately, is our ears. You don't feel your nasal cavity, right? You're like, oh, what's that pressure in my nasal cavity feeling like right now, right? You barely feel pressure changes in the mouth, right? Sometimes you feel sometimes decreases in pressure of the mouth will make you want to swallow underwater or come up burping. That can happen. But we have a great sensitivity of pressure on the ears and very little sensitivity of pressure changes in the mouth and the nasal cavity. So we have to use the feedback in the area that we have feedback. We have to use feedback in the ears. If you equalize before you feel the sensation of pressure in the ears, it means that the nasal cavity is always equalized and therefore always open. If you wait until there's pressure in the ears, the nasal cavity is already getting pulled shut. Hello. And if you wait again and again and again, feeling pressure, equalize, feel pressure, equalize, feel pressure, equalize, feel pressure, equalize, you get to a certain depth, and equalization is hard because your soft palate is getting pulled into this closed position, and you're trying to work with it, and it's getting challenging. The soft palate's trying to close itself. You're trying to push air past it. It's this weird thing that's going on. It doesn't feel comfortable, and then you turn around. So you have to equalize before you feel the sensation of pressure, because that way your oral cavity is always equalized. You have to reverse pack before every equalization, because that way your oral cavity is always equalized. You see how the steps work? If you always reverse pack before you Frenzel, and you're always Frenzeling before you feel pressure on the ears, you're always fine. But if you ruin the chain, if a link in the chain is broken, the rest of it is gone. Because you have to get air from A to B to C to D, E, F.
And you get blood out because there's no pressure, low pressure.
You get blood out of your nose from low pressure in the sinus. Yeah, it's a sinus squeeze. Alright.
Can I get just a random question?
Yeah, the best question.
Well, why doesn't reverse pack equalize your ears if you're putting more air?
Yeah, because your eustachian tubes are closed. They sit
so they
closed.
need even more pressure.
They exactly. So remembering that like reverse packing will only bring up enough air to balance the pressure, and then you need to increase it. So suck, push. The mask, if you let it suck onto your face, right, also builds up in pressure. We can't let the mask suck onto our face too much, because then when we remove our finger to put air into it, we won't be able to put enough air in, and it will just suck all the air from our nasal cavity away, and then you'll be struggling to equalize. Has anyone ever, oh, is it the instructor meeting? Well, we'll be done, we'll be done.
I just wanted to.
Oh, okay. Has anyone ever let the mask build up pressure on their face, and then thought, oh, I'll equalize my mask now, but then it's like it's like in the nose, where it's like what's going on is all the air from the nasal cavity getting sucked away, and you're trying to equalize, trying to catch it up, but it's going away so fast you can't catch it up, and you're like, oh fuck, and then you miss your ear, and you're like, oh, I didn't equalize, and then you've got to turn around. Right? Like, that's what happens if we let the mask build up too much pressure. So, ideally we're equalizing the mask every 5 meters or so. So we're not letting any pressure build up in the mask. Right? So, you see how the flow of air works? And how all these things are interconnected. And an imbalance of pressure in one area affects all the other air spaces all around it. So we started by talking about, hey, here's the nasal cavity, here's the oral cavity, here's the lungs, the thoracic cavity. They're all connected. You can't mess up in one area without ruining the whole little air ecosystem, and then you have to turn around.
So if your friends in order to equalize mask, you need to remove your hand from that, right?
Yes, but I find the best way to do it is just to apply pressure and then let it go. Because then even if you have a small vacuum in there, you're applying pressure before you get released, and you're pushing more air in.
Without pressure.
Hands-free, are you hands-free? Ah, okay. So if you're using hands-free, then as long as you're reverse packing and opening up your eustachian tubes, you never have to increase the pressure, and the pressure will always be balanced. Hands-free is easy. Like, hands-free is easier. If you can hands-free, you should do it.
How deep can you go?
As deep as the ocean.
Oh,
As deep as human can go. There's no real limit to how deep hands-free equalization can be taken.
because I thought that at the same time that it's not so reliable.
His hands-free is not reliable. No, really. Really. So what he's really talking about is hands-free equalization, and I'll go into more detail about this when we talk about it. But when we're doing hands-free equalization, what we're doing is we are voluntarily opening up the eustachian tubes, right? Now, if you have been diving a lot, or you missed a few equalizations, or you've been a little bit sick, and there's slight inflammation in the eustachian tubes, then hands-free won't work. Hands-free is the first equalization to stop working, but usually because inflammation or illness or something like that, not because of it just stops working. So if you are a hands-free diver, you use hands-free, but there might come some times where you did a stupid dive yesterday, or you dove too much, or you just let some pressure build up, and the next day your ear's going to be a bit squeaky. Then once your ears are squeaky, it's probably not going to work with hands-free. So that's probably what he meant by it being less reliable. But as a form of equalization, it is as reliable as Frenzel. It can be trickier to master. Like if you're a natural hands-free diver, it doesn't mean that you're going to be a masterful hands-free diver without doing the work, if that makes sense. But yeah, it is as reliable as Frenzel and mouthfeel and anything else. Frenzel can be used with sticky ears because it's force. You're like, boom, you like open those tubes. You know what I mean? Like you're sore, bang, open. Oh, you know what I mean? Like, I don't care. What was I going to say? I was going to say, I don't care if it hurts. But that's a horrible and weird comment to say. But anyway, Frenzel forces the tubes open, hands-free doesn't, and that's why Frenzel can be perceived to be more reliable. Anyway, so, is everyone okay with this picture before we complicate it a little bit more? Yeah? Just a little bit, I promise. So, now this is the picture of how a person frenzels to around 40 odd meters. But how does a person frenzel to 100 meters? How does a person frenzel to 170 meters? Right? Because that's the deepest frenzel dive that's ever happened. 170 meters. There's a few things, like a few extra considerations that have to, I suppose, come into play. When we are equalizing below our residual volume, or when we're equalizing beyond the space of like 40 odd meters, we have to change little bits of our reverse pack and our frenzel. Now, remember I said there's more skill in reverse packing than frenzeling? This is where we kind of come into that territory. So, a reverse pack has to be as small as possible. But the truth is that with less air in your lungs, and as the air compresses and compresses and compresses, right, it can actually become harder to suck the air out. And so we require a little bit more force to get the air from the lungs to the mouth. Now, we can't make the reverse pack large. If we make the reverse pack large, and put a lot of strain on the throat and the trachea, we're very likely going to have a trachea squeeze. Come up, spitting up some blood. So, how do we do that? How do we get the air to transfer without making a large reverse pack? We have a fast reverse pack, right? We get the power through velocity. So something, like a heavy object moving slow and a small object moving fast hit with the same force. And it's the same kind of principle here. We have a small reverse pack, but a really fast reverse pack. Reverse pack is fast. And the reverse pack is followed immediately by a Frenzel equalization. We reverse pack, Frenzel, reverse pack, Frenzel, reverse pack, Frenzel. So there's a fast succession. And the reason is that for the most part, not every reverse pack and not every Frenzel is going to be perfect. Right? It's not always going to be perfect. It's not always going to fill the container. It's not always going to transfer all the air you ever needed. And so what happens if I reverse pack and I wait a few meters and then I Frenzel? And I reverse pack and I wait a meter or two and then I Frenzel. What happens is air is compressing everywhere all at the same rate all the time. Sometimes I can reverse pack, go a few meters, try to Frenzel, air in my mouth is already compressed too much. So you have to reverse back, Frenzel. Reverse back, Frenzel, reverse back, Frenzel, reverse back, Frenzel. Right?
So the fast isn't the actual reverse pack, it's the speed to the frenzeling?
The fast means the reverse pack itself is fast.
It is.
The succession refers to... Right? And the other thing that is important is your tongue position. Alright. There are three main Frenzel tongue positions. There's the T position, in which the front of your tongue makes contact with the front of the roof of your mouth. Right? T position. There is the middle of your tongue, making contact with most of the hard palate, and that's the K position. And there is the base or the back of your tongue, making contact with your soft palate, and that is the soft palate position, the SP position. So let's look at these positions. When I reverse pack, big reverse pack, small reverse pack, the same amount of air will be transferred into the container, right? If I'm using a T Frenzel, and all this air is compressing, every reverse pack I do will transfer or demand the transfer of more gas than a K Frenzel, right? Because if, let's just say this is like, 150 odd mils of air, and it's all compressing down, it's compressed 20%, right? 20% of 150 mils is going to be 25 Yeah.
30.
30. Yeah. The maths. It's going to be 30 mil. Let's say I've got 100 mil behind my K section. Right? So every reverse pack I'm replenishing 30 mil. If I'm using the K Frenzel, I've got 100 mil here. Every reverse pack is only having to transfer 20 mil of air. And if I'm using the soft pallet position, and there's like 80 mil or 70 mil, that's even less. So when we're diving shallow and using Frenzel, it doesn't matter where your tongue is. And I don't think you should be focused on that if Frenzel is still new for you, or if you're diving maybe above 30 meters. But when you're diving below 30 meters, you might want to start using the soft pallet Frenzel, because it will mean every one of your reverse packs will be a little bit easier and place a little bit less stress on your body. So that's when the tongue position becomes important for Frenzel. You want to use the smallest position possible. Cool. We don't have time at the moment to go through all of our little tongue positioning drills, but we can do them at dinner or after the little instructor meeting we're going to have, or I'll tell you what, actually. So we're going to have our little instructor meeting. How about 15 minutes before Brandon's meditation, we have workshop extension time? Yeah?
Instructor meeting is 4 minutes, 5:15. Now it's 5:11.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah,
So instructor meeting push back now
Push
5:15.
back.
Yeah.
Well, look, let's do questions then. So that's where we're going to kind of end for now. We'll do some questions, and then at 5:45, meet at the meditation area for more chats and more drills for those who are having some issues.
What time is meditation?
Oh, meditation is here. We'll be back here.
No,
But you
he just sent a message saying it's on the route.
Oh, well then, that one. Cool? Any questions about anything? Cool. Oh, thank you so much.
So sexy, Adam.
Oh, thank you! Thank you, Frenzel! Alright, you can, do you want me to, Nathan, do you want me to press not record?
Wonderful idea.